Hey there, friend. It's Jewel here again. And today we are going to have an honest conversation and it's about something a lot of high achieving professionals do not want to admit. And I want you to realize that you might not be as free as you think you are. And especially if you are making great money, right? And so today we are talking about golden handcuffs. And this is something that a lot of people don't even realize that they are dealing with. And I want you to know if you have golden handcuffs on, how to know if you're wearing them, and what to do about it if you are. But this is something that traps a lot of hygiene professionals. And certainly at some point, I was in that category. Of course, if you are new here, my name is Jewel, and I am an ex Wall Street executive. I worked at Goldman Sachs. I have a Wharton MBA in finance, and I used to make six figures on Wall Street. And I have successfully been an entrepreneur for 19 years. I left the corporate world in 2007. And so I used to have the golden handcuffs, and I have broken free of that. And I want to help you to realize some of the signs of when you are also in the same situation. And oftentimes, the danger of golden handcuffs is that it's so comfortable, right? Because you have this amazing salary and you have these great benefits and you have this title and these all these things that you're used to, and you get lots of accolades for it, right? You got family and friends who are constantly complimenting you and they think you have it made. And your lifestyle is supported by this, right? And so you feel trapped, right? Because how could you possibly consider leaving or doing something else when your entire lifestyle is supported by this? And I do 100% understand how comfortable it could be because I remember not having to look at my bank account if I went out to dinner or I went somewhere. Like I knew I had the money in my account. And so that is part of the lure of the golden handcuffs, right? Because you don't even realize how much you depend on it and it can keep you stuck. And so if you've ever felt that something was off inside or something was wrong, then you very likely might be in this situation. And so I want to share a couple of things to help you to see what maybe some of the signs that you are in this situation. And so one of the signs, and I've talked about this on my Instagram before and other places, is that if you are already dreading Monday morning and it's Friday or it's Sunday, then chances are you are somebody who is experiencing golden handcuffs, right? You're somebody who is trapped, right? Because anybody who is in a position that they don't enjoy or they really don't want to be there, Monday morning is the most dreaded day of the week. I think I've even heard a statistic where they said that unfortunately Monday mornings is the time when most people have a heart attack. And I know that's dark, but it just goes to the mindset and how stressful it can be for people who are in positions that they don't want to be in and how Monday morning plays into that. So if you have ever been in that position, you're dreading Monday morning, that's a clue that you have golden handcuffs on, right? More signs that you are trapped by golden handcuffs. Have you ever had to ask for time off, especially when a loved one has passed? Now, I know I've been there. I think that's one of the things that really got to me whenever I had a family member pass and a day is not necessarily enough and you want to take off some time because you need to just get your head in the right headspace and you have to ask for permission. It's just a uneasy feeling, right? Not being in control of how much time you have to grieve, but that's also a sign, right? If you have ever thought about some different ideas or you've had different goals or dreams, you've been thinking about a business, but you've been saying to yourself, someday, one day, eventually, right? That is also a sign that you might be a victim of the golden handcuffs, right? Because you're just like, I have this money, I have all that I need, I have this title, I don't want to give up my benefits, right? And oftentimes someday does not come, right? And too often, the day that comes is the day that you get called into the office and you're not prepared, right? And so if you have ideas, you have dreams, you have goals, you have bigger things that you want to do or you've thought about doing and you've been waiting for the someday, that's a sign that you have been trapped by the golden handcuffs, right? Because you are so comfortable where you are that you just keep putting it off. You keep putting off the idea. You keep putting off the dreams, the goals. That's one of the signs. If you've ever felt overlooked, undervalued, but you're still there and you know you have more potential, you are trapped by the golden handcuffs. All right. I know it's hard to sometimes admit that these are some of the things that you're experiencing, but it's important to recognize them so you can start to break free, right? Because at the end of the day, the one thing we all have is time, and that's our most valuable asset. And it's an asset that does not last forever, right? It goes in a country, you can't get it back. And so it's our most valuable asset, which means you want to be making the most of it, right? To build freedom for yourself, for your family, and not having a paycheck that somebody else controls, right? You want to be in a position where you are creating something that gives you control, that gives you freedom that no one can take from you, right? And so that's when you start to break free of the golden handcuffs. And so the handcuffs are truly designed to have you feel comfortable, right? You don't even realize oftentimes that's what you're dealing with, right? I remember when I worked in investment banking out of college, I would often work very late into the night because that's the life of investment banking. And I would get dinners, order from wherever, nice dinners in the office, car service home. And everybody thought that was like the life, right? Oh, you're so lucky. You get all these dinners, you get a car home. And when the reality was, I would have been happy eating whatever I had at home. And I would have been very happy just getting on the train and taking myself home. I didn't want to be in a car at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night or whatever it was. That was a trap, right? That was something that I wanted to eventually break free from. And it took some years because I ended up going to business school and then going back to Wall Street. But that title and the money and the shine that you get a lot of times from having these nice jobs is something that can also keep you feeling trapped and keep you in these golden handcuffs because deep down, sometimes you like when people compliment you and tell you how great you are and how wonderful you're doing. But you know deep down that something's not quite right and you want something more, right? And if it was a bad job, most people, if you have a job that you don't love, you have no problems walking out tomorrow or resigning or giving your notice or whatever. But because it is a good job that pays really well, then you make all these different reasons and rationalizations for why you have to hold on to this job, right? And some of them are legitimate, right? You have bills to pay, mortgages. You might have kids that you have to pay school fees for, tuitions or whatever. But there are other things that you're rationalizing that aren't really legitimate, right? And one of those things sometimes people say is, oh, when I save up some more money, then I'll leave. But the reality is that most of the times when you're making great money at your job, you have a lifestyle to support. And sometimes you're not saving as much because most people, the more money they make, the more they spend, not necessarily the more they save. Now, you might be an exception, but a lot of people just spend more the more money they make. So just saying, oh, when I save more money, then I'll make the move is not reality, right? Really, It's when you start to create more money, create more income, right? That is when you'll start to feel like you're ready to move, right? The timing is never going to feel right. It's never going to feel perfect. I talked about this in my previous video. When I got called into the office and was told that my department was going through another round of layoffs, I was like 2 years into my investing career, and I had planned out, I'd said 3 to 5 years from when I'd started at Goldman, I would potentially be ready to leave. That conversation happened 4 years in to when I was at Goldman, but 2 years into when I was investing. So I didn't necessarily feel like I was ready to leave and be a full-time investor, but that was, as fate would have it, that was the time, right? Because the next year, the financial markets actually collapsed. And that's just God's timing, in my opinion. For some reason, whenever I leave, like something, I escaped something that was way more massive than I had ever envisioned happening. And at some point, I'll probably tell you the story about 9/11. But that timing, when you're waiting for the right time, there is no right time, right? You have to make the right time by actually recognizing where you are and putting in place a real plan to get out of the situation, to get out of the golden handcuffs, right? Because 9 times out of 10, a few years are going to go by before you ever do anything, right? It took me 2 years to really start to finally put a plan in place to start building up this passive income I had talked about building with real estate. So it will pass you by. Before you know it, years will have gone by. So I don't recommend waiting for the right time. And I remember I used to get to the office at 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't leave till nighttime, right? I didn't leave till late at night, and I was checking voicemails after church. My time was not my time. Those were definitely golden handcuffs. If you were checking your voicemail on the weekends, at night before you go to bed, oh, you have golden handcuffs. I just want to let you know. So that's the hard truth. Now, the good news is you can take off these golden handcuffs. The golden handcuffs can absolutely be removed. And I already started to talk a little bit about how that's done, but it starts really with you making a decision. That's what I did, right? I made a decision. I'm like, okay, it's been 2 years. I already know that this is not where I want to be. This is not where I see myself building a career or being in the place of my boss. And so I made a decision to finally start taking some action to move forward into the life of being a full-time entrepreneur. And it just started one step. For me, was making the plan of, okay, I'm making a decision in the plan I need to replace my income, right? That's the goal, to replace my income. How do I do that? What does that look like? How many properties would I need? What kind of financing would I need? Things like that. And so I started to build a plan to really make that a reality, right? Because that's where the real freedom comes, right? Because the freedom is not in the paycheck. And I talked about this before in a previous video. We are taught mostly from our family, our parents, get the job, right? Go to school, get the job, get the paycheck, and you'll be secure. But you're not really secure. You're not really free because, as I've already told you, you can be called into the office and that income can be taken from you, right? And so you have to be real with yourself and realize that while the money might be good, it's not true freedom and it's not true security because you don't control it. The only thing that's secure is the stuff that you can control, stuff that really belongs to you. And that's why I'm such an advocate for women and ambitious professionals and people to have income you control, create your own. I'm not saying you have to leave your job. I'm not saying you have to walk out tomorrow, but I do believe that you need to start creating something that can give you a less stressful situation where you have options, where you're going to work because you want to, not because you have to. And so many people are in a position where they have to go to work because they have to, right? They need that income to support their lifestyle, to pay their bills, to take care of their family. not because they want to. And so you can get to that place of creating something where you now have the option to go because you want to, right? And again, it doesn't mean you're quitting tomorrow, right? You are creating a plan. You start to build the plan before you need it, right? You build that exit before you need the exit. That's how it's done. It's not done by just getting up tomorrow morning, say I'm leaving, and that's it. I always encourage people to put a date on the calendar. Put a date that you would love to be able to walk away by, or that you want to have X amount of income coming in, right? So it makes it a little more real when you actually put a date to it. In the future, I'll probably do another video about that as well. But it's one income stream at a time. I'm a believer in multiple income streams, but one income stream at a time, one decision. Just start with that decision. Because once you make the decision, that's when the action will follow, right? It starts to create momentum by you making the decision and taking at least that first step. It doesn't have to be a huge step. It could be something small. It could be as small as a Google search about something. It could be as small as a phone call or a text to a friend or a professional colleague, a network. But some kind of action is where you really start to create the momentum to break free of the golden handcuffs. If this spoke to you, if there was something that was stirred up in you by hearing this, I want to invite you to join me inside of my free communities called the Entrepreneur League. It's theentrepreneurleague.com. You'll find the link here in the description. And join us inside. This is the community I wish I had when I was sitting at my desk, eating lunch at my desk because I didn't feel like I could leave the desk. And checking voicemails after church and all the things. This is the support in the community I wish I had that I'm creating for other professionals who want to break free of the golden handcuffs. And so I encourage you to join me inside that community. It's completely free for now. At some point it might be paid, but right now it's free. And this is where you're going to get the support of the community, but also me and learning from my 19 plus years of experience as a full-time entrepreneur. So please subscribe here for more real talk about building financial and time freedom on your own terms. I'm here to support you. You've got this. I've got you. And if you haven't already, check out the previous video that I did about how I escaped the corporate world. I'll link it somewhere here in the video where I share a lot more about my story and my journey. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.